Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined once again by Ken Pomeroy from KenPom.com. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
For the people who know you, do you just get bombarded with Arizona or Michigan? Who's it going to be? Arizona or Michigan? What's going to happen? Arizona or Michigan?
Yeah, basically. Feels like, feels like we got, the national championship game on Saturday night, and not as much interest in the other games, certainly. And then whatever happens, whatever we get on Monday, it feels like people think it's just going to be a foregone conclusion that the winner of Arizona, Michigan is going to win the game on Monday. And it's not exactly the case.
No, you never really know for sure, obviously. But what do you see out of that Arizona-Michigan game?
It's gonna be awesome. There's not, you think about like strengths and weaknesses for teams, and typically you can look at any team, no matter how good they are, and it's like, hey, there's the weakness, there's the strength. But Michigan and Arizona are basically like full of strengths, and their weaknesses are just like other strengths that are slightly weaker. We're obviously, I guess the one thing is, obviously Arizona doesn't take a lot of threes. That is something everybody should understand by now. Their last 2 games have been played against very soft, relative to tournament level performance, really soft interior defenses in Purdue and Arkansas. And they're not going to have that benefit against Michigan. They're going to have to earn their points. In particular, so Michigan has like the 3rd best 2-point defense in the country, which, they're playing Purdue and Arkansas are in like the 200s. So quite a difference there. Michigan doesn't foul that much, which is something that Arizona kind of depends on. So from the offensive side, it'll be a little more challenging for Arizona than it has been. But that said, like, Arizona's pretty darn good. So it's not like they're going to struggle in this situation. It's just not going to be quite as easy as it has been. So to me, I'm really interested to see how that side works out for them. And then can Arizona slow down Michigan, which, teams have slowed down Michigan this year. Not necessarily lately, but it has happened. So they're going to need to do that because Michigan, 3rd best 2-point defense, 2nd best 2-point offense. But Arizona has the 2nd best 2-point defense. So they do have some ways to at least defend Michigan in the paint. And again, it'll be pretty vital for them to have success in doing that.
As BYU fans think, what do the Cougars have to do? Who do they have to model themselves after to build what they want to build and get where they want to get? And you look at these Arizona and Michigan teams, and Michigan's 1 in defense, Arizona's 2, and then at the offense end of the floor, Arizona's 4 and Michigan's 5 in offensive rating. So the answer then is be awesome at everything?
Yeah, the answer is be awesome at everything. That's all you have to do. Boom. You're winning national titles. I think what is also interesting just in terms of roster construction is that, neither team really is dependent on one player. Axel Lendeborg gets a lot of credit for Michigan, and deservedly so. Like, he's a really good player, but you look at like his offensive usage, and it's 21%, which the average player is 20%, and there's 5 players on the floor, so 20% is your average player. So he's basically like got average usage, and that's true for like Arizona as well. Like they're not dependent on one guy. There's 4 or 5 or 6 guys that can all contribute offensively. Arizona in particular is feeling like a team that kind of like those Villanova teams that Jay Wright had before he retired, where you come into the tournament and be like, yeah, they don't really have that much NBA talent. And then all of a sudden you look 5 years later and like 6 guys from the roster are in the NBA. That's really the contrast with BYU. It's like you can go the path of trying to get the stud and giving him the ball on 35% of the possessions, and that will take you to certain places, but it's not really possible to contend for national titles if that's now the goal of BYU. It's not possible to contend for national titles under that paradigm.
And all the stuff that you do, KennyPalm.com, I'm wondering, do you ever just look at and say, well, this coach is better than that coach, so maybe that can skew some of the stuff that you're trying to put out?
Who are we possibly referring to here? Brad Underwood? No, not Brad Underwood. Probably Danny Hurley? We going Danny Hurley?
Well, whoever it might be, if you want to go Underwood in this case. Whoever, whatever, whenever. Yeah. It doesn't have to necessarily be this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was trying to maybe read too much into your question there, because I think in the other game, people are like, there's like universal surprise among the public that Illinois is favored in that game, and I think some of it rests on the coaching matchup. And obviously, like UConn has a history of amazing tournament success relative to regular season success. So people maybe peg that on the coach, but Brad Underwood's been a pretty amazing coach in his own right. So I guess to answer your question, coaching is hard to measure, and I'm probably a little more skeptical than most that at this point in the season, coaching has a major difference. Just because you're kind of, self-selecting at this point. Like the teams that get this far, presumably they're doing it in part because their coach and coaching staff, they know what they're doing. I think before the season, it's a little different. There's certainly you can find guys who like ultimately like your season performance is the talent you bring in, which is the most important thing, and then how well a coach can mold that group into a functioning team and get the most out of it. And so there definitely are coaches that, you see time and time again that have advantages in the latter part, and there's coaches that have advantages in the former part, and the best coaches are the ones that can do both. But at this point in the season, I don't think it's something that's too big a deal.
I'm curious with the way Duke has gone out in the tournament the last couple of years, and they have done a great job of getting multiple young pros in the top of the class, and they play a lot of freshmen, and there are coaches who will say, get old, stay old, and there's a lot of them, but maybe they don't have access to those elite freshmen, so they don't have to make the decision Duke makes. Do you think the fact that they've blown these big leads in they've lost 4 games going back to last year's tournament, and they've blown double-digit leads in all of them, do you attribute that to youth, or is that attributed to something else, or is that just the nature of college basketball and crazy things happen?
Yeah, I think it's crazy things happen and youth, like some mix of that. The youth, it's kind of what makes college basketball great. I don't recall seeing a play like well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I don't recall seeing a play like that, in a crucial NBA game. But I guess there's we can fall back on J.R. Smith or whatever a few years ago, and people were replaying the I don't know what it is now, 25-year-old Michael Ruffin highlight where he tosses the ball in the air before the game is over, and it's like Wizards Raptors or something. The Raptors won that game. It comes down and the Raptors sink a 3 to win the game, or send it to overtime or something. But for the most part, you don't see what happened at the end of that Kentucky or Connecticut Duke game happened with more experienced players, I guess, is the general statement there. I mean, Duke was, for whatever reason, trying to advance the ball in a situation where they didn't really need to advance the ball. And you would think a more experienced team would not do that. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of the youth factor involved there. That's part of the deal you make. And really, at this point, I mean, how many teams are winning with this kind of Duke system of going after the elite freshmen and pairing them up with, previous classes of elite freshmen that didn't quite turn out to be so elite and stuck around, like the Caleb Fosters and the Isaiah Evans that they had. It seems like Duke's the only one. I mean, Calipari's still trying to do it at Arkansas and having some success, but not nearly as much as John Shire's had. So I don't know. I do think at some point, I mean, this is, it's going to be the narrative until Duke gets over the hump. But the next 5 years, Duke's going to get over the hump if they stay with this approach. I mean, they have Final Four national championship level teams. And I don't think John Shire is a bad coach by any means. I think he's quite good. But obviously snake bitten in these end of game situations in ways that makes you question his ability in those situations. But for the most part, I think, it is part of the deal. You just have young, inexperienced players, and they're going to occasionally do things like that. And on top of that, occasionally those things are going to come back to haunt you. But sometimes they aren't going to come back to haunt you. Sometimes they get away with it. And sometimes you're just going to win games by 15 or 20 points, which is probably what Duke should have done in that game, given how things were going for the first 30 minutes of it.
All right, Ken, if DJ had asked you the question about the coaches, would you have read more into it? Was it just the fact that I asked the question and you don't really trust me?
No, it's actually the opposite, PK. Like, I just think you're a deeper thinker, and there's multiple levels to your questions that I need to consider, and so that's what I meant by that.
I can see that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so good. It totally derailed me. I had another question.
You jumped. Simple question.
You jumped. Oh, you totally derailed me with that.
Man.
All right. Here's one for you,
so skeptical, Ken, and I view you as pure.
That's pure. Okay, great. That's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, I know. Just take it and run with it, Ken. What the heck? All right.
Yeah.
In the esteemed vision of KenPom.com, obviously the Big Ten has got the best tournament record, 6 teams into the Sweet 16, 2 into the Final Four, blah, blah, blah. They're the kings this year, but it was the SEC who did it last year, and I think 3 years ago was Big 12. Do you view one of these leagues as about to pull away, or is this a little crown best conference in college basketball that's just going to get passed around for this foreseeable future, given the nature of the sport and guys coming and going every year?
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to predict from year to year. I mean, what we have is, so in college football, you think of the Power Four. And in college basketball, it's really the Power Five when you throw in the Big East. The Big East is not a mid-major, just put it that way. So, we have a Power Five, but then within the Power Five, we also have this own kind of structure that is fairly predictable in that the 3 conferences you mentioned are clearly better than the ACC and the Big East. And we saw this start to happen last year and continued to this season. And so, I don't know that there's necessarily any picking among those 3. There's any obvious top dog going forward. Maybe, slight advantage to the SEC Big Ten over the Big 12 just due to, resources, TV money, whatnot. So maybe slight advantage there. But overall, the safest thing to say is that those 3 conferences are going to be the best leagues in the sport for the foreseeable future, which that part has been unusual. I mean, the Big 12 was the top dog in my ratings for, a decade leading up to this period. But prior to that, you look in history, and some years, the ACC would be number 1, or the SEC would have a couple of nice years. The Big East would be there. And I think the days of the ACC and the Big East are are probably gone. The ACC has had to expand into, with teams that aren't necessarily ever going to be basketball powers, whereas at least the Big 12 and the SEC and the Big 10 have expanded into teams that, can be basketball powers like Arizona in the Big 12 or UCLA in the Big 10 or whatever. So, I think that's the direction we're headed.
Do you think that have we seen maybe a restoration of the big man, the level of importance of the big man in the college game?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely still room for the guy who doesn't shoot threes and plays maybe a more traditional, I don't know if post-up game is the right word, but certainly going through the post or going through the paint is certainly more possible than, I don't know, than it has been, but it's still possible. Let's put it that way. The trend in college has been a little behind the trend in the NBA just due to like talent availability, but compared to 10, 15 years ago, like most teams have 4s and 5s that have some sort of perimeter games. But it's not necessary, and we've seen teams over the years, and including this year, have success in terms of guys who cannot necessarily shoot the three or don't shoot it a lot, have success. And so, you see that even with these Arizona, Michigan, like UConn. Always like Terrace Reed at UConn. He's more of a traditional bruising big man. Moses Malone vibes there for the old heads out there. Guy that rebounds and gets buckets to the rim. Michigan has Ade Mara, who is, a pretty creative player when it comes down to it. He's definitely he's not a guy who shoots threes, but he is a guy who can pass like a point guard. So in that sense, he is skilled. And I think that's sort of the key, is that these modern big men, even those who can't shoot, are just tremendously more skilled than big men of 25 years ago. And that's ultimately why I wave the banner for the game being, better than it's ever been. There's just so much more skill on the court than there used to be.
Utah State has a new basketball coach. What was your opinion of that hire? What was your surprise level that he left Northern Iowa after 2.5 decades?
Yeah, there was some surprise there. I did not see that name coming. It's an interesting hire because on the one hand, yeah, sure, fits the MO, what Utah State has done, going after mid-major head coaches. On the other hand, they've, skewed towards more up-and-coming head coaches, and now we're going with, an established guy who, he's had a fine track record at Northern Iowa, but it hasn't been, off the charts, I think 5 tournament appearances in 20 years. And it's at Northern Iowa. You're not going to go to the tournament every year, but had some ups and downs there. Obviously got to the tournament this year in a somewhat surprise run in their conference tournament. But yeah, I'm of all their hires, I feel like this is the one I'm least excited about. It's not to say it won't work out. He's obviously been successful. It's just, he hasn't been that successful, guys, if I'm being honest. So I am slightly concerned about how this might turn out. On top of that, at least this past season, played at a very slow pace. So it's not necessarily the most interesting style. It could be, a lot of low scoring games up there at Logan next season. So if you're going to play that style, you better have some success. Otherwise, it could be a little rough. So I don't know. I'm sounding a little pessimistic here, but I was surprised they went in that direction.
Ken, we will leave it right there. We appreciate it as always. So who do you have winning it all just on the way out the door?
I'm gonna go Michigan. I'd love to spring some sort of Cinderella pick. I got a little soft spot for Illinois. Nobody's really thinking about them, and I do think it'll be a Michigan-Illinois final, a celebration of the Big Ten. Yes, a celebration of the Big Ten ending its 26-year streak without winning a title. doing so in the heart of Big Ten country in Indianapolis. That's what I foresee, and we'll see how it goes. But really, I mean, should be two excellent games on Saturday, two competitive games. So hopefully, a fitting conclusion to a season where we've had a bunch of really good teams at the top of college basketball.
Ken, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the Final Four. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
He's Ken Pomeroy. The website is kenpom.com, one of the top college basketball websites, and he's had Arizona and Michigan at or near the top all year long, and here they are playing in the national semifinals in there. Two of the top 5 offensively, and he's got them as 1 and 2 defensively. So this is it. Best on best. No excuses, PK. Let's go.
Go Wolverines.
There you go. All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, everything you missed in this show, we will get you up to date. A surprising result from the Sacramento Kings. New hope for the Utah Jazz in the race to the bottom. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and Friends.
Tony Jones from The Athletic. When you get blown out at home by a team that lost 16 in a row, I applaud that lack of effort. That was impressive by the Jazz.
The length that the Jazz are going to pull this off and to make sure that they keep that pick. I got to say, this is the best front office in the league at this point. I'm all in. Because they're going to keep their pick, all right? They're going to get a top 5 pick. Listen, you ready for me to get wild on here?
Let's go.
I'm going to get
Let's
wild on this show.
Let's do it.
If the Utah Jazz get A.J. DeBancer, they're winning an NBA championship within 3 years.
Lloyd, you rolling on that? Lloyd's got it.
Lloyd, you got that?
Wow.
Catch Scotty G and Friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
The Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Many things have happened in the last 24 hours, PK, but I think if there's one thing Jazz fans are a little surprised at as they wake up this morning, it's that the Sacramento Kings picked up another win. Number 20 on the year. The Jazz are on 21 wins, and if you're thinking, wow, the lottery odds could change. Maybe the Jazz could have one of the 4 worst records in the NBA. Well, it is certainly in play after the Kings picked up the win in Toronto, 123-115. Look out. Here comes Sacramento.
Yeah, Sacramento with their late season surge has been impressive. We'll see what that gets them. And we'll see what it gets the Jazz as their surge has gone the other way. And they continue to lose. And they make it competitive. Yeah, the Denver game was competitive again. Man, if they could just face Denver in the playoffs, they can give them 4 competitive games. And maybe we'll see that next season because they've played them competitively each and every time this year. And I just don't know what to make of it, but I'm rooting for it to have the better odds than what you have now. One spot, does it make a difference? Who knows? I think that the Jazz are due good luck. I really believe that when it comes to the lottery. I think the balls are going to bounce their way. And come the morning of where did I get that? The morning of May 11th is going to be a beautiful morning on the David James and the Other Guys show. I think that's what it should have been named all along. It should have been David James and the Other Guy. I think that really just sums up who we are. But they wanted it because, fortunately, my initials rhyme with your initials, so we went in that direction, and that's kind of cool. But really, still, everybody knows it's David James and the Other Guy. And that morning is going to be special. It is going to be celebratory. We have to set it up on because I think it's the 10th, right? And so after the show, we got to plan the party for the morning of the 11th. You know, somebody's got to bring the hats. You got to bring the little kazoos. We got to bring the drink. We got to bring some. Maybe cake is too early. What can we have? Cinnamon rolls, maybe.
Ooh, look out!
Homemade
Cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, yeah.
Cinnamon rolls
Because we're going to be
donuts.
celebrating that morning.
Best case scenario for the Jazz, they get the number 1 pick. They take A.J. Devonta. Or best case scenario, they draft 3. They take Boozer. Devonta goes to Sacramento or Washington 1. The Kings change coaches 3 times in 3 years and keep spinning their wheels. Washington just keeps staggering along like they're staggering along, and A.J. wants out, and they end up with 2 of the top 3 players in the long run. How greedy do you want to get, PK? What scenario would you like to dream up?
Well, I just want Devonta in Jazz, whatever their colors are today. I want that. I want him in that unit. I want him to stay local, and he will just blow this town upside down, man, if he's here. It'll just be crazy. Ute fans will soon come aboard, and they'll be Devonta fans because he's got that, hey, I'm one of you type guys, even though I'm this basketball budding superstar. He really is a humble kid, and to watch him grow here locally would just be incredible. And plus, we know Ryan Smith, he's tampering with the NBA somehow with Devonta. I'm not sure how Gottlieb came up with that story, but nevertheless, that would just be great. And you and Devonta sitting on the floor, and if you have 2 aces, you're halfway there to an undisputed winning hand.
Devonta and Ace Bailey together would be an awesome combination. It's a little too much to dream about, especially if they're playing alongside a bunch of 7-footers. I mean, that is a positional size, as general managers like to say. That would be awesome. They'd be so big and so athletic. We'll see if it breaks their way. But Sacramento does seem to be opening the door to better odds. Completely eliminates the chance of drafting 8th, really minimizes the chances of drafting 7th. So you're probably looking at a top 6 pick at that point. Who do you like? PK's like, what?
Top one. I'm going to speak it into existence. I thought it would happen last year, but it's going to happen this year. And I think that I would rather have Ace Bailey over Cooper Flagg. So I'm going to be right, but I'm just going to be right a year later.
See, there you go. So the Kings loss is the big story. The Jazz lose to the Denver Nuggets, not particularly surprising. You did put up a question on our Facebook page. You got a little reaction. We'll get to this about which of these young players can be with the Jazz going forward. And I think that they've shown quite a bit. Several guys have shown quite a bit here. And the fact that a lot of them still have inexpensive years left on their rookie contracts is going to help for a team that's going to be up against some salary cap limitations here pretty quickly and is going to want flexibility to bring in a player or two. I think that's where some of these young guys are going to go away. I think there's going to be some kind of deal for a veteran who can handle the ball. Maybe there'll be a couple of those deals. Which team? What does that team need? Which of the Jazz young guys do they really like and who do they want? I can't begin to guess. You had a nice ranking. I thought it was a pretty good starting place. You went with the bigger players who are usually hard to get a hold of and said, Filipowski, but you liked Collier, and you were leaving Kessler and Keontae out. Those two kind of figuring that those two are locked in, right? And they haven't been playing lately, which is the question. Who's been playing lately that you think is locked in?
Yeah, and also Ace Bailey, too.
Yeah, Bailey's been playing. He'd be the number
Ace.
one.
And I like the Lion King, man. I'm going with the Lion King with his toughness.
Going forward.
I mean, watch him roar. What's his name?
I think Conchar. I think that the thing about him, and Will said this in a postgame, it's probably a week ago now, maybe a little more, that he didn't play for a while, and then when they went to him, he was ready. And so if you're going to be guy 11, 12, 13 on the roster.
Savvy.
That's what you've got to be, because you're not going to play all the time. You're certainly not going to play a lot, but on the nights you are needed because somebody's hurt or somebody's resting or it's a back-to-back or whatever, you got to be ready to go when you're called on, even if you haven't played in the previous 3 games. And so him showing that is probably him checking one more box.
Yeah.
That'll keep him around.
And And then he comes in off the bench with a lion. Whoa. Oh, man. A lion? I think that was part of Favors' problem, you know. He needed a lion there. He had Jesus. And that's nice in the things. It's more about basketball. There are things that are more important than basketball when it comes to tats. I understand that. But a lion, that's sort of ferocious. Have you ever gone nose to nose with a lion?
As a matter of fact, I have not. But thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think the closest I've come is being in a singular one-on-one conversation with Scott Mitchell.
Did you ever go to that when you lived down in L.A.? Was it still open, that Lion Country Safari thing down in Irvine, where you drive through and then the animals are roaming around or caged in a bigger area than a zoo? You ever do that thing?
I went to Africa with only a bow and arrow.
Okay. All right. We talked hockey this morning. Yeah, I know, right? We talked hockey this morning. PK's like, yeah, I've had enough. Let's go. What kind of nonsense do you want? He's got a wide range of nonsense.
No, you've had enough. I haven't had enough.
Jay Stevens was on. Your takeaway from talking with Jay Stevens, does the Mammoth podcast here on KSL Sports. He's got a bunch of content. You can go to KSL Sports. You can find his YouTube page, and there's a ton of hockey there. He's of the opinion 92 points. That is the magic number. They're sitting on 82 with 8 games to go. So 5 wins or 4 wins and 2 overtime losses, whatever. He thinks 10 more points will get it done to get into that first wild card spot.
Yeah, I think that will get it done, and I think they will get it done. And I'm wondering to what level, if they play Anaheim, maybe they have a better shot at getting out of the first round. Listening to guys who know more about it than I do, it seems like it might be hard to get out of the first round, and everybody's been talking about getting to the playoff. Nobody's really been talking about winning the playoff. And Armstrong, who's been saying our best team isn't here yet, meaning some of the beefier dudes that they've drafted are working their way up through the system to get to the big club, I guess you could call it, in the next year or two. But it's important to get there, obviously, to get these younger guys who don't have the experience in the postseason. Some of them do, we know, and go from there. And maybe this time next year, we'll be talking about a little more optimism. How long can they stay in the postseason? Now, maybe they can surprise us this year. You don't want to rule anything out, particularly in this sport, which has sort of a baseball randomness to it as opposed to a basketball and a football. Football has a little bit if you have turnovers. Basketball, maybe shooting is off. But over a course of a 7-game series, it seems like the better team wins so much of the time. There's going to be exceptions, obviously. And I think that listening to Jay talk, and he knows more about it than I do, that they need to get beefier, and you got McBain and Krause there doing their thing, and they need some more size behind them. So they might not be set up to win in the postseason this year, but that would be a good advancement. And then you go from there, and then you build this thing into the next 2-3 years out and see how far they can go.
Yeah, I do wonder if Anaheim's the best matchup. That's who's currently sitting in first place in Pacific Division, who they would match up with if the playoffs started today. But even in the 7, 8, 9 games left, depending on the team, there's a chance for Edmonton to move into that spot. Now, Draisaitl hasn't been playing, and I am intrigued. We'll have to get into this maybe next week when we have Mike Fulton on. Would you rather play Edmonton with Draisaitl just being reintroduced and coming back, or maybe he's not back for the first couple games in the series? I'm not sure exactly where his health stands. They like to stay mysterious about that. Or would you rather face Anaheim? Because if Edmonton gets dialed in with their 2 stars, look out.
Yeah. Well, McDavid called the other division a pillow fight, meaning that it was soft. Yeah. So he's there literally on the front line. And with that in mind, I'm thinking my mindset has been Anaheim the whole way.
Yeah, the pillow fight there, there's a chance, depending on if the Mammoth finish strong here, there's a chance that the top 8 teams that are going in the playoffs, the top 4 in points will all be from the Mammoth Central Division, right? And the other 4 will all be from the Pacific Division. Yeah. That's pretty unusual. It could work out that way depending on how the Mammoth finish. Certainly the top 3 are going to be from the Central Division. And then we talked Final Four with Ken Pomeroy from KenPom.com in the last segment. He thinks Michigan over Illinois in an all Big Ten final. And he was a little hesitant, a little thrown off by the Aggie hire. Not what he saw coming. Has a few doubts.
Arizona's going to be tough. I mean, maybe it's just because I've seen them so many times. Their size, their shot-making ability, guys come off the bench and can make shots. I'm going with Arizona, but a lot of it is just simply because of my familiarity with them, watching them play 10 to 15 times this past season.
Yeah, our part of the country, we see them more. I mean, Michigan was dominant and scaring people early. They had hit a couple potholes, and then they've been awesome again, which is actually the Arizona story, too. Arizona had that one bad week. Remember that one bad week they had? Yeah. Other than that, there's more people.
That's it.
All right. DJ and PK will take a break. When we come back, your feedback, what you've got to say about today's show, that's next. Stay with us.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Question of the day, we got multiples up. One of them, though, which of the young guys who played recently has impressed you, and what do you think the odds are they've cleared a path to join the team next year? Ben Anderson tweeting out late last night that it sounds like Bez Nbang will sign with the Jazz on another 10-day contract. That'll be his second, and that clears a path for him to join the team in the Summer League. We've been talking about the guys we watched for a couple years, PK. It will be interesting to see if someone who's just coming through here late in the year, afterthought and all that, maybe isn't an afterthought. Maybe they've played their way into something.
Well, I just mentioned the Lion King. You include him. He's not a 10-dayer, but are we talking about him too?
Right. I definitely think he's in the mix for next year. I think when you're that far down in the roster, you can only do so much. It's a numbers game, and we've both talked to plenty of ex-NBA players who've seen the numbers game go against them or go for them. There's an injury that clears a path for them to play even more. So I think he's definitely put himself in a good spot, but I think his future depends on what other moves they make and how many roster spots are left. We talked about the possibility of acquiring a veteran guard through a trade. Well, it doesn't necessarily 1-for-1 or 2-for-2. Do you give up one and you get two, and now you've lost a roster spot that these guys were battling for? Or do you give up two players and you get one, and that opens up a bonus spot for another guy to slide into? There's a lot of things that can happen. And as Jerry Sloan said, hey, the whole league's watching, man. There's 29 other teams. So for the guys who are free agents, which isn't most of them actually, but for anybody who is in that situation or maybe has a player option, could be go time. Maybe they get a call they love. You never know. Well,
yeah, but I also think in today's world, there's 350 colleges that are watching them.
You're right. Back to college. So feedback today. Classless Skip says, man, I love how we've transitioned from 3 years of Lowry Markkanen's getting traded because he's old and doesn't fit the timeline to, hey, what young players are getting traded. That is hilarious. I get that. I get why that entertains you, Classless Skip, but I completely agree with what PK said. Austin Ainge, if you're looking for a cliche, go with chip off the old block. if it improves the team, even if it seems wild and outlandish to you, if he's got confidence to improve the team, he might do something that the rest of us consider unpredictable. Didn't see that coming around the corner or whatever else. He'll just go and do it. He's not just going to stay in his lane and go for gradual improvement. He'll roll the dice.
No, I agree with you, obviously, and that's the point I made. So essentially I'm agreeing with myself, which is always a good way to go as far as that goes. Now, as the team is trying to improve, it has to, if you're looking through trades, you have to give up assets to get back assets. That's a big old duh, right? And right now, what they have is younger guys. Those are their tradable assets, assuming that they're looking at bookend 7-footers next season with Jackson and Markkanen, right? So that leaves you with the younger guys, whereas before, well, he didn't fit the timeline, and so he was your Jaren Jackson, essentially, for a couple of years, and he was good. He hit the ground. Interestingly, he hit the ground running that first year when he was playing with far more experienced guys on that team than he has been the last couple of years. So that may be something to factor in. Markkanen, is he one of these guys who can raise his game if he has better players around him? It would seem like he did that first year with the Jazz, and now going forward, he'll be back in that situation, and they'll be looking to win. They won't be looking to, well, these guys don't fit in the timeline anymore, because the timeline is right now, and if you don't fit in the timeline, that means before, or maybe you were a little older, well, now it's reversed, and you're a little younger, so you're not quite ready, so we're looking for guys that we can bring in who are ready, and teams are looking to be in the situation that the Jazz were in, and they want younger guys to be able to grow. That's where we're at right now.
Saba says, Cody, for sure, I loved his development. And I get that. I think we're seeing more and more flashes, especially at the defensive end of the court. His athleticism is just, he's got the size and athleticism. That's why he's drafted where he was. So that, you see the flashes of that and what it could do. But when David Locke comes on and says, hey, there's some fool's gold mixed in these games, you're playing teams that, A, aren't into it, or you're playing teams that are into it, but on a given night they're not into it because they know they're going to win with a C-minus effort. And so what are we really seeing here? And I got to say that I think, while that applies to everybody, there's a couple players that applies to a little more. And somebody like Cody, who we'd all seen less from in that first year and a half, I do wonder how much of it is development and how much of it is just kind of the situation he finds himself in here in a lot of these games. However, if he keeps developing, because it's clear that some of it is him, if he keeps developing this summer, maybe a little bit of that becomes a moot point. And, he starts the season as a depth piece, but has a chance to play his way into something more next year. Because he has improved year to year. How much he's improved, it's hard to gauge given what we're seeing in some of these games.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I want to add to that. Okay, I get what you're saying, but he doesn't think that. He doesn't think, well, I'm doing it against scrubs. He's thinking he's improving.
He's going hard. Yep. Well, and he is. He is. The question in my mind is, how much is he improving? And when the games are much bigger and the stages are much bigger
today than it was this time last year, right. And that will lead to him being better when he gets the opportunity to play against better people because he believes in himself more.
And even if he's a little bit buried based on whatever they do this summer, kind of hang in there, things have a way of shaking out, and maybe getting this chance to play and getting a little taste of success at whatever level it's at, we can all debate that, maybe that you need a little positive feedback to keep working. You need a little something once in a while, and so maybe this has been really good for him in that regard.
Right.
All right, we're all done. DJ and PK moving over to make way for Jake and Ben. They're coming up next right here on The Zone.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.